who's going to try to come on Zoom. Okay. I'll do the learning sponsors. Year of Learning, Bell and David Adler in memory of her father, Eliyahu ben Yosef Cohen. Those were inspired by Rebbetzin Emerita, Shiva Shapiro, Sarah Stamarka, but Mishum Yisachar, Gail and Leslie Kaplan. In memory of their parents, Mushka Shpunza bat Yosef Chaim Vachava, Hanan ben Moshe Eliezer Vachana, Pesha bat Shmuel Yitzchak Halevi B'Tzipora, Isha ben Yoel Moshe Kohen Vachana. Rexford Friends of Gladys Sherman, Gutta bat Meir. Michael Klein and Friends of Judith Klein, Judith Tzvi ben Chaim. Marsha Brana in memory of her husband, Rabbi Rachmiel ben Shmuel. Friends and family of Arthur Ritholtz, Mordechai Yidl ben Baruch Leib HaKohen. Friends and family of Sigi Bessler, Shalom Shraga ben Dov. Friends of Marvin Weinstein, Mordechai Ozer ben Yisrael Aharon. Sarah Alpert in memory of her husband, Rav Tzvi Lippert ben Hillel. Rexford Friends of Maddie Fredman, Mendel Miriam Bat Kalman Ruvain. A month of learning by Susan and Ruvain Podolsky, in memory of her father, Simcha Bunam ben Yeshua. A week of learning by Leila Bessler, in memory of her mother-in-law, Rachel Bat Shalom. Rabbi Tzvi and Robin Karpel, in memory of his mother, Malka Bat Mordechai, and her mother, Chaya Edel Bat Menachem Zev. Okay? Today being the 26th, we have a day of learning by Henya and Shmuel Novik, in memory of her father, Zeb ben Shimshon, by Emmanuel and Carol Meller, in memory of his mother, Vita Feiga Bat Yosef Alter, and by Shoshana Love, in memory of her husband, Shimon ben Avram, and by Dave and Eva Love, in memory of his brother, Shimon ben Avram. May the Shemers have Naliyah, Krank Rafia, Vati Shir Shem Latliah, and Achol B'nai Yisrael, a good branch Tiad. Tomorrow there will be a day of learning by Corinne Grinwald, in memory of her mother, Miriam Gisa Bat Shalom Shach. A little technical problem here. The going to pick up on the bottom. I think that's where we left off with Nun Zion Amud Beis, right? Right? Shomer Chinam Eno Nishba, right? That's the point where we get to. So the Gemara wants us to pick up, and we saw this whole series of klal upratu klal. Okay, actually, it would be it's a good place if you're teaching that or you're showing that to somebody. It's a good spot since you've got like 3 of them in a row, okay, to be able to reinforce that particular concept. But the Gemara wants to go on, and now if we've said those original items in the Mishnah, remember we said it was land, it was servants, it was certain kinds of shtarchov, it was hekdesh, okay, that not only was an exempt from ona'ah, okay, but there were other situations that the Mishnah then went into, and now that's what we're discussing. So the Gemara tells us, Uminhu, but we'll challenge this with the following, right? Namely, it seems a contradiction. B'nei ha'ir sheshalchu et shaklehem. We're talking about here about sending machatzit shekel, right? And what happens is the people in the local community, in a sense, let's take something in the Galil, okay? They've collected all their shkalim, and they give it to some messengers to send to Yerushalayim. Okay, what's the status of those messengers? According to our Mishnah, or at least part of the Mishnah, they could be a shomer chinam. They happen to be going there anyway, okay? And so that's the case. Let's see. So b'nei ha'ir sheshalchu et shokleihem, they gave them their shekalim, And what happened along the way? V'nignavu o she'avdu. Okay, either the shkalim got stolen or they got lost. Right? What happens? Okay, since they're a shomer chinam, what do they have to do? They have to do a shvuah. Question we're going to see in a moment is before whom do they do the shvuah? Right? Says the Gemara, im nishtamra hatruma. Okay, if it's such that it got stolen and it was after truma had been taken, what do? As we go to Nun Chet on the top, nishba'im legazbarin. They must make their vow before the temple treasurers. Right? V'im lav, and if not, what do? Nishba'im levnei ha'ir. They must give their vow before the people of the town from whom they were carrying their shkalim, right? Uvnei ha'ir shoklina chevrim tachtein. And those people in town have to chalk up another shekel, another, right? And they have to pay it all over again, okay, for what that was stolen or what was lost, right? And notice what happens. Nimtsu'u. But if the criminals, let's say, were found, right? Oh, shehachzirum haganavim, or the criminals themselves returned the shkalim, what happens? Elu ve'elu shkalim hem, both the old shkalim originally sent and the replacement shkalim, okay, that were now directed. What happens? Both of them, they both have the status of being kodesh. Ve'eno lin lehem l'shana haba'ah, and they do not get applied for next year's. It's not an advance payment on your taxes, so to speak. All right? That's the point that it's saying. So what happens? No, if they were returned, the Gemara is telling us. If these are good Jewish crooks, they realize, what did we do? Okay, they want to do tshuva, they got to return it. Okay? Right, that could be also right, exactly. Amar Shmuel. And Shmuel then says, Hacha b'nosei schar askunim. No, says Shmuel, that's a situation where we're not talking about a shomer chinam, we're instead talking about a shomer sachar. That's what we're talking about. And if we're talking about that, v'nishva'im litos charan, and he had to take his oath in order to gain his payment, right? His wages. Ihachi, okay? Nishba'in l'gizbarim. Why then would we say that in the earlier case he has to take the oath before the temple treasurers? That's our question. Livnei ha'ir mibayale. He must take it before the townspeople. Amar Rava, says Rava. What happens is as follows. Nishba'in livnei ha'ir, b'ma'amad gazbarim. No, the people take their vows before the townspeople, but with the gazbarim, with the temple treasurers present at that vow ceremony or that vow taking. Why? In order so that they see that there was no negligence on the part of the townspeople. Okay? Or it could be no negligence on the part of the shliach. Exactly. So I found two pshatim there. It could be on the part of the shliach, or it could be on the part of the people. Ve'inami, or possible, says the Gemara, hechi delo lakrula ho poshin. Or he says, where it says that we won't call the townspeople negligent. So you've got two possibilities. Right? Okay. Now, going on. V'hanignevu o she'avdu katani. But wait a second, says the Gemara. Our Braita specifically said if it was a situation that the shkalim were either stolen or lost. That's what was taught. Okay? V'shomer sachar. And if you're going to say we're talking, as Shmuel did, about a paid uh, person, right? A paid, right? Watchman, exactly. Shomer, right? Right? V'shomer sachar v'gnei vav aveda chayve mechayim. If he's a paid watchman, okay, isn't he subject then to being obligated in terms of the loss of the funds, right? V'hachanami, and here too, nehi deshlume lo mashalme. Okay, and here therefore we would say he shouldn't get paid at all if he didn't do his job, right? Agraihu mia livsi. No, what we're going to say is from any wages, okay, could be deducted the amount of money that was lost. Okay. So, Amar Rabba, and now Rabba says as follows, Nignavu, when we said in our Braita that the shkalim were stolen, what did we mean? Bilistin mizuyin, they were stolen by armed bandits, and therefore there was no way that that he had a choice. A shomer sachar, right, doesn't have a choice under that situation, and he should not be held responsible. Okay? Avdu, when we say that the shkalim got lost, what happened? Shetavas finato bayam, that the boat which was carrying the shkalim sunk. And again, then we should not hold the shomer sachar responsible, and it should not be deducted from his wages. It was a situation that was, in a sense, both of them beyond his control. Okay, let's go on. Rabbi Yochanan Amar. So Rabbi Yochanan says, Hamani, according to whom are we understanding this? Rabbi Shimon. It's according to Rabbi Shimon Damar, who said as follows, Kedoshim shechayav ba'achriyutam. When there is sanctified items in which one may be held responsible under their authority, yesh lahen ona'ah v'nishba'in aleihem. Okay, that there is then the possibility of fraud or extortion, and one must take a vow about it. So the Gemara continues. Hatenach ashelo nitramah. That may be appropriate and acceptable if we're saying, like we said earlier, that it was before Truma was taken, right? Misha nitramah truma. But once the Truma has been taken, kachim she'eno chayav, then they shouldn't be responsible. They shouldn't over it. Okay, in regards to their responsibility or authority. Why? The Tanya, because we have a Braita that says as follows: Tormim al ha'avud, okay, that one would give over their portion, right? Separate it, right, on something that's lost, va'al ha'gavai, or something that's collected, va'al ha'atid lagabot, or something that is future to be collected. Right? Ella, but rather, Amar Rabbi Elazar, who says, Shavua zo takanat chachamim. That vow, however, is a decree of the sages. Shalo yehe b'nei adam mizalzalin behekdeshot, that a person should not take lightly or treat lightly anything that is consecrated. Okay? What happens, however, now we come back to another part of our Mishnah. No say sachar, no mishalem. We said that the one who is a paid watchman would not have to pay, right? Rami le Rav Yosef bar Chama le Rabba, and Rav Yosef bar Chama then raises the following question to Rabba. Tnan, we have a Mishnah. No say sachar, no mishalem. That our Mishnah said, right, that one who is a paid watchman does not have to pay. Uminhi. But I'll challenge this with the following. Hasocher et hapoer, l'shmor et hapara. One who pays a worker to guard, protect, watch over his cow, Okay? All right? What? That's what I meant, right? The red heifer, right? Okay? All right, what happens? Or, okay, lishmor et hatinok, or they pay somebody to watch over the children regarding the red heifer to be able to collect the water, okay, for that purpose. Or lishmor et hazra'im, or to pay for certain, right, seeds for the Omer. Ein notnim lo sachar Shabbat. Normally, we do not pay them for their time on Shabbos. Lefichach, ein achrayut Shabbat alav. Therefore, it's like he doesn't have any authority or responsibility on Shabbos. However, okay, we might consider that almost like a day worker. Okay, would be the case. Right? Now, if we compare it, however, to a one who is hired on a different basis, namely Hayas Sachir Shabbat, he was paid by the week. Sachir Chodesh, he was a paid worker by the month. Sachir Shana, he was paid by the year. Sachir Shavua, let's say he was paid by the 7-year cycle. Notnin lo schar Shabbat, we do include payment for him, okay, on Shabbos. Lefichach achrayut Shabbat alav. Therefore, in that situation, he does have authority and responsibility on Shabbos. My lo l'shalem. So what do we mean when we say that he wouldn't have to pay? Okay? No. Lahafsid scharo. We mean it would be deducted from his salary. Ihachi. If that's the case, says the Gemara, Reisha de Katane ein achrayut Shabbat alav. Our earlier part of the Braita, where it says he has no responsibility regarding Shabbat, hachanami delafsit secharo. Do we mean that there too, in those other situations of workers, that he would have to have his salary deducted there? Right, you wouldn't give it. What? Right, do we deduct it from him? Does he lose his salary? Right. Right. Does he lose his salary? Okay. Umi itlay schar Shabbat, and does he really have salary then on Shabbos? V'hakatani, but didn't we teach einot nimlo schar Shabbat, that we don't pay him? Ishti, he was silent. Amarle. So now he comes back and says to him, Midei Shamiala Baha. Have you heard anything about this? Amarle, he said to him, Hachi Amar Rav Shesha. This is what Rav Shesha says. V'shekanu miyado. What did he do? He made an actual act of acquisition in order to support his guardianship. That's what it V'chein Amar Rabbi Yochanan. And likewise said Rabbi Yochanan, V'shekanu miyado, that he actually acquired that which was going to be, he's going to have to supervise. By acquiring it, it's like his, and therefore he has the responsibility. Mm-hmm. Rabbi Shimon Omer says as follows: Kedoshim shechayav ba'achiyutim yesh lahen ona'ah. Those sanctified items for which one does have responsibility, there can be ona'ah, extortion, fraud. V'she'eno chayav ba'achiyutam, but where he does not have that responsibility, ein lahen ona'ah, then they do not have any extortion, fraud, ona'ah. Okay, we pick up now in a situation where we're talking about Shvuat Pikadon. and the question of a false oath on an item and the return of the item. Okay? Says our text. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Kodshi, right? Shechaya b'achriutan yesh lehen ona'ah, v'she'eno chaya b'achriutan ein lehen ona'ah. Tana kame de Rabbi Yitzchak bar Abba. Okay, taught a Braita, okay, the Tana before Rabbi Yitzchak bar Abba, Kodshim shechaya ba'achriutan. Where there are sanctified items and one has the obligation under his responsibility, chayav she'ani korei bahen b'Hashem v'kichyesh. Because based on the pasuk, I understand, he says, that you have this connection between the reference to Hashem and the fact that one then lies. But where he does not have an obligation of authority, patur, he's exempt. Why? Because if he doesn't have, and it's kodshim, it really belongs to the Beis HaMikdash. And we saw when we looked at the Klal V'chomer that you're only responsible when it is your friend's item and not that of the Hekdesh. Exactly. V'kichesh, even though he could lie in that situation. Amarle, klape laya. So he said to him, well, which way are we dealing with? What's the opposite? Ipcha. Let's go the opposite way as we talked on the top of the Amud. Ipcha mistabra. No, the opposite should really be what we're thinking, our consideration. Amarle is may. Shall I delete this? He asks. In other words, not teach this Braita in this way. Okay. Amarle, no, he says, Hachi Kamal. This is the way we have to understand. Kodshim shechayav ba'achriutan. When you have consecrated items where there is a obligation for responsibility, chayav, he is responsible. Da'atribu mi b'Hashem v'kichesh. That we can include that based on the words of the pasuk, okay, connecting Hashem and the person perhaps lying. V'she'eno chayav ba'achriutan, and when he does not have the obligation of responsibility, patur, he is exempt. Da'amit mi ba'amito v'kichesh, because he's excluded then. Okay, and with that exclusion, even when he does not tell the truth, okay, or he denies it, really, he's not held responsible. Okay. Going on now in our Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda says as follows, Af hamocher sefer Torah. Okay, we saw, remember in our Mishnah, that it listed specific items. We said it was land, it was slaves, it was chol, documents of chol, and it was hekdesh. So Rabbi Yehuda is now adding, Af hamocher sefer Torah. Even one who sells a sefer Torah, margalit, or sells a pearl, ubehema, or even sells an animal, ein lahem ona'ah. There is no possibility of ona'ah, okay, of extortion, fraud. Tanya, but we have a bright. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, who says as follows, Af hamocher sefer Torah, ein la ona'ah. Even one, again, he says that sells a Torah, there is no ona'ah. Why? Lafisha ein kates l'dameha. Because a Torah scroll is priceless, if you will. It does not always have an exact amount. Okay? Behema, umargalit. What about the pearl or the animal? Ein lahen ona'ah. He claimed that they also don't have extortion fraud. Mepnei she'adam rotzeh lezavgan. Because a person wants to pair them up. Okay? In other words, the pearl, you don't use generally a single pearl.
He has one pearl already.
He wants to make a necklace or something, right. That's one option. The animal, depending on the animal, you want to mate the animal because there's a benefit and having a partner to the animal to mate it in order to produce a progeny. Okay. Okay, that's that all right. That's how that's how they give the plot. That's interesting. That wasn't the one I. Okay, right. Amrulo. So they said to him, Vahaloha kol Adam rotzel Avgan. But are you really saying that every person wants to pair them up? Rabbi Yehuda. Hani chashivile. But maybe for Rabbi Yehuda, these things were important. Vahani lo chashivile. And these other things aren't as important. Va'adkan. How much can we say? Okay, Amar Amemar ad kadei demehin. Until they perhaps double their value. Tiny. But we have a bright. Rabbi Yehuda ben Batera Omer, he says as follows, Af hamocher sus, even one who sells a horse, v'sayek, or sells a sword, v'chatitum. And chatitum I found was either considered a shield or a helmet, some other item of protection in warfare. Milchama, during warfare, ein lahem na'ah. They have no, in other words, you can't claim price extortion on that. Why? Because of the possibility that they can save one's life. Exactly. Now. Okay, we get to our new Mishnah. Okay, and I just want to point out as we exactly. You're willing to pay any. Okay? Okay, exactly. Okay, our new Mishnah is going to continue in a moment with the topic, but we're going to see there's a lot of agadata in this Gemara. Okay? Okay. Let's go on, everybody. Shem she'ona'ah b'mekach u'memchar. The same way there can be fraud or extortion in business dealings. Kach ona'ah b'dvarim. Likewise, there can be fraud, extortion, wrongdoing in terms of, I'm going to use it, communication, verbal, verbal, what? Verbal abuse. Right. Verbal exploitation is actually the translation that I was using. Okay, but verbal abuse. V'lo ye'omer lo b'kama chafetz zeh v'hu eino rotzeh lekach. Why? For example, let's say that one asks, how much is this object? An example, but he has no intent to purchase it. Im haya ba'al tshuva, if the person is a ba'al tshuva, lo yeomer lo zechor ma'asecha harishoni. Don't remind him of his past deeds. Im hu ben gerin, if he's the son of converts, lo yeomer lo zechor ma'aseh avotecha. Don't remind him of the deeds of his parents. Shnei amar, as it says, v'ger lo toneh v'lo techatzenu, citing the pasuk that you don't, I don't know if you want to translate prosecute, you don't remind somebody, things like that. Okay? Going on. Now our Gemara. Tanu Rabbana. We have a pasuk, says the Braita. Lo tanu ish et amito. That, what do we say? That basically one shouldn't wrong their friend, colleague, another person. Bo'na'at varim hakatuv medaber. Here we're talking about verbal exploitation or verbal abuse. Okay? Ata omer ba'ona'at varim. Are you really talking about verbal abuse, exploitation? O eno ela ba'onat mamo. Or are you really only talking about a monetary exploitation and fraud? Keshehu omer. But when we say in the pasuk, v'chitim keru memkar la'amitecha, when we talk about selling something, o kana miyad amitecha, or it says about buying something from your neighbor, hare ona'at mamonamon. There we're clearly talking about financial exploitation. Ma'ani mekayem. How then do I understand the pasuk? Lo tanu ish et amito. Do not subjugate or do not wrong one's neighbor, right? Okay. Ba'ona'at varim, with regards to verbal exploitation or verbal abuse. Haketzad, how is that possible? Im haya ba'al tshuva. We're going to have again some of the same material referred to in the Mishnah, but in a little more. If he was a Baal Tshuva, al yomar lo zachor ma'asecha rishonim. Don't say we remind you of your earlier deeds. Im haya ben gerin, if he was the son of converts, al yomar lo zachor ma'asecha avotecha. Don't tell him and remember the deeds of your parents. Im haya ger, if he was a convert, ubal lamed Torah, and he comes to learn Torah. Al yomar lo, don't say to him, the mouth that ate all sorts of disgusting kinds of animals and subject items and insects and all sorts of stuff. Balil Mo Torah is now that same mouth wants to come and learn Torah. Shene Amra Mipi Hagvura, Torah that was said from the Holy One, blessed be He. Im Hayu Yisurin Ba'inala. If there are troubles befalling that person. Im hayu chalaim ba'imalam. If there are illnesses following the person. O shahaya mekaver et banav. Oh, he was unfortunate enough to have to bury children. Al yomarlo. Don't speak to him. Kederech she'amru lo chaverav la'iyov. As those, quote, friends, supposed friends of Job. Halo yira'atcha, tisaltcha, tigvatcha, v'tom darchecha. Basically saying to him, okay, what happened to your fear of Hashem and all of these things, right? V'tom darchecha, zechana mihu naki abed, that only the truly innocent person, etc., etc. Im hayu chamarim mevakshim tvo'am imenu. If the donkey drivers want to seek grain from you, lo yomar lehem lechu etzel ploni, shehu mochet tfuah, v'yodea bo shalom achar ba'ot me'olam. Don't tell him go to so-and-so, and he'll sell you grain when you know that he doesn't have grain to sell whatsoever. Rebbe Yehuda now says, Omer, af lo yitle enav al mekach. A person should not even look at a potential purchase. At a time when he doesn't have adequate money. Right? Why? Because the item draws his heart. In other words, he's ageya, we would say in modern Hebrew. He's yearning for that item. Okay, and anything that draws the heart. Ne'amar bo yoreita melohecha. When he says, no, you should fear Hashem. In other words, that shouldn't be it should not be the item that is most appealing to you. Okay? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Gadol ana'at dvarim me'ona'at mamon. That verbal exploitation can be even greater, and I'm going to translate it as worse in a moment, than financial exploitation. Why? Shazene amar bo v'yoreta melokecha. Because regarding ona'at devarim, we have the words, and you shall fear Hashem. V'zeh lo ne'amar bo v'yoreta melokecha. And with ona'at mamon, don't have the words ona'at yoreta melokecha. Furthermore, Rabbi Elazar Omer, he says as follows: Zeh begufo, one affects one's physically, v'zeh mamono, and the other affects, I'm going to put in the word only, so to speak, their money. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani says, Zeh nitan lahashivun, One is capable of restitution, financial, right? וזה לא ניתן לחשיבון. But verbal abuse, you can never take it back. I'm always reminded of the story in the Gemara elsewhere where it says you compare it to taking a pillow, feather pillow, opening up and throwing out the feathers. You can never recollect. Okay? Tane Tamakame de Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. And a Braita was taught by Rabbi Nachman Bar Yitzchak. V'chol hamalbin pnei chavero b'rabim, one who embarrasses another in public, ki'ilu shofech dami. It's like he spilled blood. Amar le shapirka amarta. Said to him, well spoken, he says. The chazina le, the azil sumka, va'ate chivara. Why? Because we see that the red leaves his face and he turns pale or white. Okay? Amar le Abai, says Abai le Ravimi, the Ma'arava, in the Eretz Yisrael, right? B'mai zehire, what are they particularly stringent about? Okay? Amar le ba'achvori apai, about humiliating a colleague or another person. Okay? The Amar Rabbi Chanina, says Rabbi Chanina, Hakol Yordim leGehinam chutz mishlosha. All go down to Gehenna except for three. Hakol sakadaka? Do you really think all? Asks the Gemara. Ela ema, but rather say it this way: Kol hayordim leGehinam olin. All those who go down to Gehenna come up. Chutz mishlosha, except for the three. Shiyordim be'enoli, that go down and never come back up. Ve'elu hein, and who are they? Haba'al eshet ish, one who has relations with the person's wife, in other words, adultery. V'hamalbin pnei chavero b'rabim, and one who embarrasses somebody in public. V'hamechaneh shemra lechavero, and one who calls his friend with an inappropriate nickname. So the Gemara finishes up here. Mechaneh, with chayav malbin, can we say that one who uses such a nickname is the same as one who embarrasses somebody? Afal yav, despite the fact, darash be shemei, even though what he may have gotten used to that nickname, right? Right? The case, what's to happen? Okay, even that's the case, that's still embarrassing. And I think right there is a good place to start. Okay? Everybody have a good Shabbos, a good mowing.